Okay. Just waiting for this. There we go. Whoops. All right. Let me pop out the chat so I can see it. Turn it on to live instead of top. There we go. Turn off the closed captioning on that screen. Do this thing. Shoot, where'd it go? There. Alrighty. I think we're all set, and there we go. All right. Hope you folks are having a good Sunday. Hello from Millsboro, Delaware, Coventry in the center of Old England. We got West Midlands, Castleberry, Washington, D.C., a sleepy Washington, D.C. How you doing? Scottish Borders, Minnesota, Cleveland, VJ Morph, how you doing? Let's see here. Packing House Redlands in Redlands, California. Stratford-on-Avon in the UK. How you doing? Happy Easter from an unseasonably sunny Ludwigshafen. I don't know if I got that right or not. Probably not. Morning from Tennessee. How you doing? Morning from the sunny Mitten. Throwing a turkey on the smoker in a few. Nice. Yeah, it's sunny here too. Maybe going to hit 50-ish. So that'll be nice. Feels like it's been a couple of weeks since the last Every Other Sunday show. Well, we're on track, but yeah, it does seem like the last time since I've done it here. The last time that we had it Every Other Sunday show, it was at Adepticon, and I was walking around with a camera, and it was mostly working, so that's good. Stockholm, Sweden, West Texas, Minnesota, Ohio. Morning from Eau Claire with nice weather. That's nice. East Tennessee. Knoxville, Tennessee, Ontario, Germany, Hartford, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Ottawa, Athens, Greece, Chicago, Ireland, Tampa, Florida. My goodness. Reading, UK, Rye, New York, New Mexico. All kinds of new things going on there. Wadsworth. Glad I got to see you at Adepticon. Looking forward to Nova. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I am also looking forward to Nova. And it was also good to see you as well. Yeah, let's see. Well, let's see, there's TMX between now and Nova. There's Adepticon, or sorry, not Adepticon, Gen Con between now and Nova. But that's about it as far as conventions I'm going to, I think. Lord knows my memory is no good. Let's see here. It's always a couple of weeks. Well, there you go, see? Hello from Ireland. Nice to make the start of a live show for the first time in a while. Well, we're glad to have you. Absolutely. Also in Dublin, Ireland too. Perth, Australia. Perth, Western Australia. We got 2 people from Dublin, or 2 people from Ireland and 2 people from Australia, both in Perth, right there at the same time. Boom. You folks should play some games together. My first live shop in almost a year. Show, I think, probably. Yes. And my first week back painting in almost 6 months. Well, we're glad to have you back, Sundered Psyche. I'm good to see it. Good morning from Wisconsin. Good morning from Wisconsin to you as well. Atlanta, Georgia. Nutley, New Jersey. That's fun. Reading, not reading. Yeah, probably. Sunny, Quebec. Last show was the first live show I missed in about 2 years. I was at Heritage Con in Hamilton, Ontario. First time since 2017. Well, that's cool. Glad that you had a good time. 60 seconds in the future video was good. Needed more Sam and Zambies and Emily though. Well, I got Zambies in there. Just a smidgen of Zambies in that video. Sam was super busy during the convention a lot. So yeah, I didn't unfortunately catch him in there. I mean, I've caught him in the last couple of videos, obviously, that I've done from Adepticon like that, but not in that particular one. Are you going to Gen Con? Yes. Yeah, that is currently the plan. Sure doesn't pay being the first greeting in the chat every time I get missed. Yeah, if it's once the show starts, the first ones go away. So you know, glad to see you here though. Are you not going to Tabletop Minions Con? Oh yeah, TMX. That's I mentioned that one. Belfast, BC, Canada, Bangalore, Australia. That's a fun word to say. Happy Easter from sunny Norfolk. Made it to the near start of the stream. Nice. Glad to have you. Thanks for the Adepticon videos. You've convinced me to go with some friends next year. Nice. Yeah, Adepticon's a great time. It really is. It is, this year, luckily, thankfully, knocking on wood, I came away with no illness from it, so that's good. I know some people did definitely come back with COVID, and other types of con crud as well. Con crud is called con crud because it's a thing that's been going on for a long time. Well, no, it's just, that's not, but the reason it has a name is because it's been going on for a long time. Very frequently in the before times, you'd still come back from a convention with at least a cold or potentially worse, sometimes like a flu or something like that. Now you also have the potential of COVID, which can cause trouble itself. And, you know, we like to think that the pandemic's over, but it's not particularly. But luckily, I was able to, like I said, luckily I came back with, I don't know. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, I'm assuming I must be immortal, like one of those Highlander guys. That's the only answer. And then he said, well, we can test that by cutting off your head. And I'm like, that actually, that kills both Highlanders and non-Highlanders. So that's not actually a good test. And he's like, but I mean, we could still do it though. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. So anyway, let's see here. Can't believe that AR wasn't mentioned in the 30-second video. AR wasn't mentioned in the 30-second video. Do you mean the 60-second video? The one, AR. Augmented reality. I think that augmented reality isn't going to impress anybody until it's in your glasses or something like that. Like, you know, the concept of taking your phone and being like, oh, cool, I can see stuff through my phone. I don't know that anyone wants to play a tabletop war game this way, looking through their phone. If it's on your glasses and you're like, oh, that's cool, neat. But I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, you know, the probably one of the bigger players in AR, which was Microsoft with the HoloLens and that whole thing, they just recently shuttered that entire department. So I don't know that it's going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? But maybe. I hope so. Because I do think it's a better idea than VR. That's for sure. Working on rebasing some Wolfen Confrontation minis for official Heroescape customs. Do you have any thoughts on the future of Heroescape? Is that the one with the hexagons? I think that's the one with the hexagons, right? Heroescape, I know that they tried to do a Kickstarter or crowdfund last year, and it didn't take. Like, that's Hasbro, right? Like, I remember seeing the little plastic hexagon things in a case at Gen Con. I'm like, oh, cool, they're bringing that back. And then I found out later on, well, they tried, but and Hasbro doesn't use Kickstarter. They use their own Kickstarter that they made, and it didn't get enough numbers for them. So they were like, well, we're not going to do it, from what I heard. I could be wrong on that, but that's all I really know about Heroescape. I never played it when it was out originally. Need more TMX info dumps. There's some events up now. I had a talk yesterday with my friend Battle Badger Rick, and his club, which is the Southeastern Wisconsin Battle Badgers. I think that's, yeah. They are going to be running Flames of War, which is kind of their thing, but they're also looking to run a bunch of Fallout Wasteland Warfare as well. Evidently, they've got some really cool tables and stuff like that. So they're going to be entering that information soon, and then I'll put it into the website. So yeah, we're moving along on that. I've got to coordinate with Sam and Vince and Ninjan so that we can figure out what the schedule is going to be, because they're all going to be teaching classes, and I have to figure out what's the number in the classes, and then I got to figure out a bunch of their technical stuff, like what about lights and, you know, all that kind of stuff. They're teachers, and I'm not particularly as far as that's concerned, so hopefully they'll know the answers way better than I will. Anyway, that's the plan. But yeah, it's definitely heading in that direction. If you are interested, TMX is coming up June 3rd and 4th, right here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. You can go to tabletopminions.org/TMX to find out more. It's a small little convention, a very, 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 very small little convention that I run here. And it is basically just come and hang out and play demos of games and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a little bit of a party. So that's fun. But yeah, check that out there. Hi from pleasantly not raining South Wales. Well, there you go. Nice. Are you looking ahead to any particular game or meeting you can talk about at Gen Con? Not so far. It's still a ways out. The tabletop gaming space is not usually that well. Like, no one's like planning on meetings yet for Gen Con because it's in mid-August. So that usually, if someone starts planning on meetings in late July, that's like that person's on the ball. It seems to be the way it works with the gaming industry. No Origins. Yeah, probably not. I haven't been since 2019. I don't know. Maybe again at some point. I know there was talk about trying to expand out what they were doing for miniatures and things like that, but I haven't seen anything happen yet. So hopefully, that'd be kind of cool because then I could hang out with Vince because he lives right near there. So Zambies was more like 5 seconds from the future. Short and sweet. That's what she said. So there you go. My thoughts on the new 40K is I don't really care as I am a Mantic and Kings of War man. There you go. Okay. Hi from Yorkshire, England. Concrud vid. That doesn't sound like much fun. Adepticon looks like a blast, but I can't go to the U.S. Long sad story with sad ending. Sure. Poor Whittle Goblin got COVID. Yes, she did too. She did. Vince did. I think Sam did. Or else he just got like a regular bad cold. But I don't know if it was COVID or just a cold. I think it was COVID. I know other folks did too, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I don't think Zambies. Maybe Zambies did, I think, too. Yeah. Can only be one, Uncle Adam. See, there you go. Do you see anyone wearing masks at the cons? In my neck of the woods at cons, I still see people wearing masks for high concentrations of people. There were some folks that certainly were. There weren't nearly as many as there were last time. Like last time, Adepticon last year, 2022, definitely started out with pretty much everybody walking around wearing masks, and then everybody sort of stopped like over the course of the 4 days, which was interesting. But it was just kind of like, oh, well, and then this time, like a very small percentage of folks were wearing masks. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't really, but I was like, well, I'm boosted and yeah, I don't know. It's probably fine. As it turns out, I probably should have a little bit, like, especially like in the GW preview where you're in that room full of, I don't know, 800 people or whatever, all finding out about what's the next thing coming out for 40K and Age of Sigmar and all that jazz. I probably should have wore a mask in there. I did last year for sure. A lot of people did, but not. So yeah, what'll be interesting to see is what Gen Con's doing this year. I know Gen Con was still requiring masks last year. I don't know if they're still requiring masks this year or not. So it'll be interesting to see. That's one I could see, especially like when I go in the vendor room, I could see maybe wearing masks a little bit more just because it's probably going to be really packed. Like last year they had 50,000 people. 2019, before everything went all squirrely, they had 72,000 people, but I would be surprised if they don't hit 60,000 this year. So yeah, something to think about. Because I mean, even just beyond like no one wants to come home even with a cold. So if you gotta wear a mask a little bit, like, and especially in the much more like packed in areas in certain places, it totally makes sense. No con crud here with my roommate. First time nobody came down with something. See, that's something. That's pretty good. Waiting for the return on the Google Glass until AR is relevant. I don't know about that Google Glass, but somebody might make something. Let me see here. AR is like app-driven games. I play tabletop games to get away from my phone and screens. I think AR is a bit like 3D TVs, and it's just viewed as a gimmick until it gets some major improvements. Yeah, I mean, again, if you could wear like relatively normal looking glasses or even slightly chunkier glasses, but still have the ability to look at a unit and then it show you the threat radius around it or the stats for it or stuff like that, I could be like, okay, cool. That's kind of neat. It's basically, you're still playing the game, but instead of having to go back to the book, you just look at it and you can see the information. And that's, I think, a neat concept. We're not there anywhere near it. The other neat concept I still think with AR is to play a miniatures game without any miniatures, which is to say, like, you know, like we want to play a miniatures game. You and I were friends. We hang out at, you know, lunch during work or whatever, and be able to play like on an empty table at lunch and be able to save it and then come back and play the next day and stuff. We can both see what's going on, right? and then and we can move units around and do stuff, and it's like a miniatures game, but it's it's a shared experience through the AR and kind of stuff like that. There's a game called The Machines on, I think it's at least on Apple, I don't know if it's on Android, that has kind of a thing like that, except it's more of an RTS versus a turn-based game. But you're playing it on the tabletop, but you have to hold up your phone and look through it. It looks really super cool, and you can get down and look underneath terrain and do stuff, and it's really neat, but you're constantly holding your phone in front of you like a dingus. And so, yeah, I don't think anybody necessarily, like if I'm going to be sitting there and hold my phone, we could just play a video game. But if it's me and somebody else and we're like, we just don't have miniatures with us, but we want to play a quick miniatures game and then be able to save it and then finish it up, the next day or whatever, that's a cool concept, but we're not anywhere near there yet. 10th even has me mildly interested. Combat Patrol. Yeah, Combat Patrol for 10th is where I'm very interested. As a matter of fact, later on this afternoon, I will be priming, and basically tomorrow on Twitch, I'm going to start painting my new Deathwatch Combat Patrol, because yesterday I got all their little shoulder pad things, symbols finished, which was a hassle. I used some Shapeways Pop Goes the Monkey stuff, and those little things are fiddly. Anyway, so I got that done, and I also got the bases textured, so they're getting primed, and like a dark gray Zenithal today. And then tomorrow I'm going to start painting them on Twitch, so that'll be pretty cool. What do you think of Louise Sugden? So I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah. What do you think about Louise leaving GW? It seems like it's probably a pretty good idea for her. I feel like if you are a person who is a painter or a crafter or whatever like that, and you have a personality, you have the ability to, talk on camera and do this kind of thing and whatever, and you work for a company that is like, hey, look, we're just only going to show your hands, not your face anymore. We're not going to tell anybody who's doing what. And all that, then yeah, it makes sense for you to go and do that and go, start your own thing. If you are, again, if you have a persona, if you have a characteristic or whatever, you're a person who people are like, I like to watch that person do whatever they're doing or whatever, do it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think she was going to get anywhere really working for Games Workshop. It sounds like they don't. I think after Duncan and Peachy and other people leaving, I don't think that they want to hire people with that potential to go. So it made sense for her to go. I've never met her, so I don't know her, but it makes sense. I got a Space Marine Predator kit at Heritage Con for half the price. Only wanted one since they came out in 03, but refused to pay more than $50. That makes sense. Use any product on your beard? I was trying to look at it for a second. I was like, I can't say it. No, I just got out of the shower. I took a shower this morning before I came in. So yeah, later on in the day, it'll be all who knows where. But no, I've tried beard oils in the past, and then I feel oily. I like the smell, but then I'm like, everything is like, ugh. I don't know. I'm probably not doing it right. I'm pretty sure. Talking about Rick is now making me sad. I won't be at TMX. I understand. Morning from KC. What's your opinion of Warhammer 40K cosplay? I mean, it's cool. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, frankly. I mean, I've seen people do it. But yeah, I'm glad people get enthused in the property or the IP, whatever you want to, and take the time to do that kind of stuff. I've seen there was a dude at Adepticon that had a Space Wolf like power armor thing and whatnot, and that was kind of cool. Wow, I worked for Bethesda. Is the Fallout tabletop that popular? I don't know that it's that popular, but some people like it. You know what I mean? Modiphius is still pushing it, that, and also the Elder Scrolls miniatures game. So yeah, they're pushing into both of those. I own a base copy of the Fallout game, and I think the issue with the Fallout, well, there's a couple of things going on. For me, I used to be a huge Fallout fan, and I seem to have burned out. I played Fallout 1, loved it. Fallout 2, loved it. Fallout 3, loved it. Fallout 4, yeah, I like it. It's fun. And then like Fallout 76 came out, and I was like, no. I think for me, it is. I know they're making a TV show now. I guess we'll see how that goes. For me, I just kind of got tired of this whole like neo 50s weird aesthetic. And yeah, it's just, I'm like, I just don't know if I buy the fact that we have nuclear powered cars that look like, 57 Chevys and stuff like that, but like crazy weird space age one. I don't know. For me, anyway, just the story, like I got too much of it. I'll be honest, I'm very much looking forward to Starfield, which is the new game coming out from the same folks that make Fallout and all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be a completely new IP, amazing. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the models I've also not been crazy blown away by from Fallout, but that's maybe just me being fussy. Is there a good way to coordinate a time for a bunch of us to play some Space Station Zero and probably bring the terrain I had at Adepticon? Oh, for TMX? If you want to run demos, well, I mean, yeah, if you want to run demos, just go to the website at TMX, which is tabletopminions.org/TMX, and you can just say, hey, I want to run demos from, here to here to here or whatever, fill out the form and stuff like that, and then I'll get an email and then I'll put it into the website and we can do that. Yeah, that's kind of the way that TMX is handled, is that people are like, who want to run stuff, go and they fill out the form and they're game masters, and then you do it. I forget how many hours it is, but you do a certain amount of hours and you don't have to pay for the badge and stuff like that. And then you just run games for people and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool too. Good morning from Soggy, Columbus, Ohio. DJ Todd P. Harris, how you doing? Gaddis Gaming, how you doing? Melbourne, how you doing? Let's see. Enjoy the sunny southern Easter working on some non-tabletop 3D printing projects. Nice. Just painted my first mini in about 20 years, and it looked so much like Zumikito's Expectations video. I think he may be psychic. Well, it could be. Have you heard that a bunch of content creators on YouTube were going to get together and talk about smaller games in game companies like mine? You're going to get together like in person, or I guess I haven't heard about that. Hello from Poland. How you doing? This is actually the first new 40K edition that I've been excited about in a while. 9th edition was a chore. Yeah, I didn't play any 9th edition. I started in 5th. I played a lot of Combat Patrol in 5th, which is why this whole thing about Combat Patrol and revamping it and really kind of pushing it for me is like kind of getting back to my roots. And so I'm very excited about that. So, but yeah, I played 5th like a lot. I played 6th a lot. And then 7th, I was kind of like, because it kind of got a little weird, especially towards the end. And then 8th came out and I played a bunch of 8th. And then 9th came out and I didn't play any 9th. I like read the rules and everything. I was like, oh, this is all stratagems all the time. And just, and it just got way too thick for me. And so I didn't play it at all. And I was playing a lot of other stuff anyway, so it was fine. Plus, I'm also not a big fan of playing, like when we would play, even back in the day, well, okay. After we got done with like Combat Patrol and moved into bigger armies, we were still only ever playing 1,500 points. Just because 2,000 points was just too many stupid models pushing around. So I'm still not a big army fan. And with 10th edition, I'm still don't see myself ever playing a 2,000 point game. But I'm definitely gonna be playing Combat Patrol because that's a lot of fun. I enjoyed the heck out of that back in the day, and I think it's a smart move on their part. So I'll admit I was happy to dodge the vid with the demo since that Vince gave us on Friday night. Oh, sure, yeah. Super excited about Combat Patrol announcement. Picked up CSM Combat Patrol for my nephew. Excited to get him into the hobby. Nice. Yeah, see, that's the thing, too, is it's also a great way to get new people in. Kill Team, even the previous version, which I liked a lot more, is still not like the previous version was a little bit closer to the way 40K is played, at least as far as the stat lines and stuff are concerned. You'll look at it and go, okay, well, this stuff kind of tracks. The new the new Kill Team, it's not for me, but I know people enjoy it, but it is not a game where you go, I will go from Kill Team into 40K, unless you're just like super into like the models and the lore, because the rules don't track. There's nothing that's anything like Kill Team in 40K and vice versa. Like they're very, very different. So the concept of Combat Patrol being this is the same game, we've just changed some of the stats on the data cards, but it's the same game. Like, and we're talking about the values of the stats. We're not talking about like, oh, well, we're going to add in a couple extra weird, categories to the stat line. The stat lines will look the same. The data sheets will look the same between, if you've got a Primaris Intercessor unit, the data sheet for Combat Patrol and the data sheet for for regular 40K will look the same format wise. It's just that the Combat Patrol one, some of the stats might be wiggled a little bit, and there might be slightly fewer special abilities and things like that. And part of that is to make it a little bit easier, quicker, streamlined. But also part of it is because since you don't build your own armies in Combat Patrol, you just buy a Combat Patrol box, or you already have models that will equal that Combat Patrol box and you use them. They have to make all those Combat Patrol boxes kind of equal to each other. And so they're going to have to tweak the stats, because I'll tell you right now that Combat Patrol box currently for the Custodes does not, it is a little bit more powerful than the one for, say, the Astra Militarum. So they're going to have to kind of tweak them a little bit to make them equal, but you'll still learn how to play 40K by playing Combat Patrol. You'll just be doing it quicker because it's only 500-ish points roughly. So there's that. I think that's pretty cool. Let's see here. I'm way behind. I apologize. Oh, I'm really, there we go. Okay. Let's see here. More from Southern California. Vince's video about how he's not going to enter the Golden Demon anymore was interesting. Yeah, no, I agree with him. It is a real weird competition that is a moving target constantly, and nobody knows. Like, normally what happens is that a lot of competitions, if they have specific things they're looking for, they'll at least kind of try to tell you. Whereas most competitions don't really have like specific, they'll have rules. It's got to be this big or no bigger or this and that. And plinth can't be, 6 foot by 6 foot, stuff like that, But like they have these very specific criteria, and you can get DQ'd very easily and not know why, and yeah, no, I mean, for me, not going to, never going to enter the Golden Demon anyway. So, but yeah. Loved your what not to do stripping video. Do you know how well Citadel White Primer comes off? I don't. And to be fair, you don't have to get you don't have to get everything all the way down to the plastic. The trick is to get the thick parts of the paint off, which usually most, compounds or whatever you use for stripping will usually do that. If the plastic is still kind of white because it's still got primer stuck to it, or black or whatever like that, as long as it's not thick, you can just prime over the top of it and then go to town. You don't need to get back down to the plastic or the metal specifically. Gen Con is not requiring masks, and people are very unhappy about it. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, you can still wear one, obviously, if you want to, for sure. No con crud here, but you have to go to a con to get con crud. Technically, yes, I think that's true. First time I've ever heard of con crud. Can't say I've ever had it. Oh yeah, just going to conventions and then coming back with like a cold, because you talk to a lot of people, you shake a bunch of hands, people are walking around, that kind of thing. Let's see here. I actually really enjoyed 3D movies, and games at home kind of made me sad it didn't catch on more. Yeah, I think that some people liked it, and some people were like 3D movies sometimes gave me a headache. A mini game without minis, isn't that a video game? I mean, I guess, but not like in a video game. It's a lot harder sometimes. Like, I think that there's something about standing around a table, and let's say you have glasses on. If I was like, If you could like literally move your hand and like grab a miniature that wasn't there and say, okay, well, these guys, he's going to move over here. And then it happens and you can both see it, but you don't have to pack up all that stuff. You know, it's in your glasses, it's in your whatever, and you could play a game that is very much like a miniatures game, because miniature games are different than just because they take Space Marines out of a miniatures game, put them into a video game doesn't make it the same. They're definitely different things, definitely different experiences. You know, real-time strategy versus turn-based strategy versus first-person shooter, like all those different things. But if you want to play a turn-based move miniatures around type of game without carrying around all the miniatures, you know, for situations when you're in that type of place, I think it's a cool concept. I have lots of ideas that I think people don't necessarily aren't interested in, but are interesting to me. That's one of them. Being able to play a miniature game without miniatures when you just don't have them around or whatever, I think is cool, and AR is the only good way to do that. Playing a video game, I mean, I've got turn-based video games that are based off of 40K. It's not the same thing. The new Chaos Gate, it's cool. It's a neat video game. It's not a miniature game. So, yeah, that for me, there is a differentiation there. Let's see here. I'm puzzled GW has never tried to digitize their tabletop games, as in you have Warcry and a Warcry video game, and if you buy the minis for the tabletop, you get them for the mini game. I mean, GW doesn't make the video games that come out. They license some other company, and so I think the other thing too is that it would be the same kind of response that I just got. People would be like, why would I play a video game version of a miniature game? Why wouldn't I just play the miniature game? Now, for me, again, it's because it's a lot more portable and you can play it wherever, maybe play solo a little bit easier, that kind of stuff. But I think that people are like, I just want it to be a Space Marine using a hammer to squash orcs. And so you could play the Space Marine video game, which I enjoyed. I played it on the Xbox 360. I just recently picked it up for my Steam Deck. It was like $9 for like the super anniversary edition with all the DLC. And it's fun jumping around and smashing orcs and whatever. But it's not playing a miniatures game. You know what I mean? So Wookiee chess through the glasses, sort of. Kind of, yes. Kind of like the Wookiee chess. Yes. I feel the same way. You put your heart and soul in a miniatures comp and you walk around not looking at the art, and you go to get downplace other people's, try to put yours above. I think I missed something there. On the flip side, new players can start with a good edition, not realize how good it is until they buy the next bad edition and then buy the next good edition. That sounds right. Nintendo tried AR a while ago. It never really did anything worthwhile either. I mean, they did that with, there was kind of AR a little bit for Pokemon Go, you know, because you'd be like, oh, look, there's a Snorlax in my living room or whatever. Something like that. Also, for merging internet games with physical games, very exciting, and I think it will happen, but the hardware or software needs to be cheaper. Sure, absolutely. Competitive is fine, just need open transparency about rules, and top 3 is fine, but put an open comp with it. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the Capital Palette. That's a completely open comp. Like, basically what they do is this. Everybody who enters is probably going to get, I believe, everybody who enters is going to, well, maybe not. Actually, like, I'm sure you could enter something that was, like, really not following what they were looking for, and they'd be like, yeah, you're not getting a medal. But it's not like one person gets a gold, one person gets a silver, and one person gets a bronze. Your score, based off the rubric, is like, okay, well, you got 26. No, well, I don't know. Maybe it's based at a 25, let's say. I'm thinking to back in the day when I was in forensics in high school. There were certain places you went to, certain tournaments that we would go to for forensics where there was a first, second, third, and then that was it, right? But then there was also ones we went to where if you got, like, if the judge gave you a score of 23, that meant you got a silver. 24, 25 was a gold, you know, out of 25, and then blah, blah, that kind of stuff. So you could have multiple people who were even in the same room get gold because they all hit that particular score. That's kind of the way the Capital Palette does it at Nova. But in each category, there's also a best of category. So, you know, I got a silver, you know, medal, hooray. But, you know, somebody else also got a gold and also got best. And I think you probably can't get best of category unless you also got a gold. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's interesting. Let's see. Talking about your idea of a savable tabletop game, isn't that mostly Tabletop Simulator if someone creates a module for a flavor? I mean, Tabletop Simulator, I don't like Tabletop Simulator. I'm not against it morally. Don't get me wrong. There's something about the way you do things and control things that is just completely the opposite way that I would usually think of doing it. So it's not particularly for me, but I know people dig it, and I know it got lots of traction obviously during the pandemic. So thank goodness for that. But yeah, for me, it's not. I don't know. There's something about the controls. I'm always like, wait, that's how you roll a die, or that's how you do it. Just doesn't seem intuitive to me. Also, the music in the background is annoying. I think in the beginning screen when you're just waiting to get into a game, and I kind of hate their logo. It's really stupid, but yeah, I don't. There's just a bunch of little things that add up that all of a sudden I'm like, I don't particularly want to use it. You don't have much other choice though, because no one else has really sat down and try to do anything like it. So I'm excited for 10th edition because I'm going to actually learn the rules for 40K finally. See, well, that's fine. GW seem to have zero respect for their talent and refuse to acknowledge them. They have said that the reason that they don't say who wrote the books anymore is to stop people from getting death threats, because it's happened in the past. Matt Ward wrote, I don't know, Blood Angels, some book, and people got super crazy angry and left him all kinds and said that they were going to kill him. So they're like, well, let's not tell anybody who wrote it anymore. So then that way those people won't get death threats. That may be a reason, but I think it's also partially a reason that then, in my mind, and maybe this is conspiracy theory, but I don't think so, if we don't have to credit the artists ever and we say that we're doing it to protect them, then they also don't get the, like, how do you know who wrote what? So if that person tries to go someplace else or they want to put stuff on their LinkedIn, I could say that I wrote that book, you know, if I worked at GW, and maybe I only worked in the shipping department, but I'd be like, well, I worked at GW and I wrote this book. And they'd be like, well, prove me wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a weird situation. They're like literally one of the only companies I can think of out there in the gaming space that doesn't credit the people who do the stuff. And they say that it's doing it to protect them, but I don't know. It seems weird. You know what I mean? I mean, when you tell me, oh, well, it's because of death threats, I go, sure, that tracks. It's tabletop wargaming. That makes sense that you would threaten someone's life because you don't like what they did to the Blood Angels. But it also does happen. I know that. GW can't win. Hire a charismatic presenter painter. They leave and start their own gig. Hire a new presenter who doesn't get recognition. They leave because they don't get recognition. Or they could pay more. Because from what I understand, those folks don't get paid very much in general. So on the upside, nobody knows who you are because it's just hands now. And on the other upside, you don't get paid much. So I guess you don't have to pay as much in taxes. Yeah, no, like if you want to keep people, there's a way you can do it. And it's called paying people. I mean, they're a $5 billion market cap company. I bet they can handle it. But nonetheless. After about 10 odd space stations, 0 missions, finally had a guy permanently die. Rip, Remy Tim, you will be missed. Oh, Remy Tim, that's sad to hear. F's in the chat for Remy Tim. Let's see here. First time watching live from the UK. Well, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. New Vegas. Oh, Fallout. I started on that, but I didn't get very far on it. Do you think GW will bring out Lehman Russ yet? I don't know jack about the lore, so I don't know really. Like I really don't know much about Primarchs at all, so I have no idea. So yeah, that's a good question. Fallout Tabletop's issues seem to be earlier models not well detailed, model price is high. Yeah, it could be. The earlier models were not greatly detailed. I'll give you that. Good morning from Colorado. I saw a video the other day from Eons of Battle about Armada from Mantic. Armada. Oh, the boat one. Yeah. Since you always talk about games other than those from GW, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on it. I'm not into boats much. I don't know. Like I keep wanting to do a demo of it, and I never have the time. They were running demos. I swear to God, they were running demos at Adepticon, and it was one of those situations I'd walk by and they're like, "Oh, they're running Armada," but I've just never been into boat combat. I don't know why. Like, I love the concept of Leviathans from Catalyst, but that's flying boats, and I liked it. And then I played it a couple of times, and I was like, I mean, it's just not a thing that I see myself doing much. I don't know why. It's just, I think that, I don't know what it is, but boat, like, I was looking at the Firelock games, Blood and Plunder. Is that the one? And they have got this set that comes with like 2 sloops and then like a bunch of pirates and all kinds of stuff like that. It's this big, huge, massive starter set and everything. And I was watching them play a little bit of that too at one point, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about boats. I like boats in real life. They're fine. Well, I don't like speedboats. Let's see. You must like No Man's Sky if you're looking forward to Starfield. I did. I haven't played it in a while, but I mean, I was super on board when they first launched it and went, this is not particularly deep. And then they keep adding, and keep adding. And so I'm like, that's cool. It's the only downside to No Man's Sky is it is a little... Starfield, to me, the video game, the stuff that I've seen so far, seems more realistic. Like, the No Man's Sky is a little too stylized and colorful, and I appreciate them doing that, but it doesn't, for me, it just doesn't quite land. I still enjoy messing around with it, but everything is very kind of colorful and almost a little touch cartoony. And Starfield seems a little bit more gritty, and so I'm pretty interested in that. I just still don't think it's going to come out until later this year. They keep saying, "Oh no, first half of 2023," and I'm like, no. Like when they originally announced, "Oh, it's coming out 11/11/22," everyone was like, "No, it's not." We know, and then it didn't. And so now they're like, "First half of 2023," and we're like, "Nah, probably not." So we'll see. I mean, if it does come out early part of 2023, then it'll come out and be a buggy mess, as per usual. And then sometime later this year or early next year is when it'll finally start to work. So, I might just wait. We'll see how that goes. Stopped playing Fallout 4 after I started having fever dreams about digging through mounds of scrap. It was a bit off-putting. Yeah, I mean, that happens. You have, well, maybe not fever dreams, but you definitely do if you play a video game a lot. Sometimes I'll have dreams about it, for sure. My attitude towards 10th edition is wait and see. More likely to go back to play Rogue Trader or 2nd edition, perhaps even since I have 6 codexes from 3rd. Sure. GW even hired a Matt Berry impersonator to play James Workshop. Man, if they could have got Matt Berry to do that, that would have been spectacular. Gotta love Matt Berry as Laszlo on What We Do in the Shadows. Jackie Daytona, human bartender. I recently bought 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. Does the expansion add more traditional fantasy ancestries, or is there any... I don't know anything about... Well, I know a little bit about 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, but I don't know about what the expansions at all. If Todd Howard could buy the Wing Commander IP, he would. Then that would have been Wing Commander Starfield. Well, that'd be kind of cool. JP Got Rockets, how are you doing? Alex says, I've started my Dark Angels army. I know things are changing, but it doesn't bother me. Well, that's good to hear. Are you doing Other Games April? Other Games April. Oh, is that that's the I saw a picture. Malev shared something about Other Games April. I don't know much about it. I mean, I talk about other games pretty frequently anyway. I mean, today I'm kind of talking about, 40K, but generally I have a tendency to talk about that kind of stuff. But I haven't heard anything about it other than the thing I saw from Malev. I hear one of the cats singing the song over people. Yeah, Maggie was doing a little bit of a fleecy parade there. Hope you're well. I've been painting a couple of years and tempted to repaint my first army. You got any tips? I feel like I've got way more experience, so I could do a better job. I mean, if you want to go back and repaint, I would tell you to... Depending on how thick you put on your first layer of paint, you could just prime over it and then just keep going. But if you put the paint on there a little thick, and if you want to take the extra steps, and they will be extra steps, then I would tell you to start stripping the models in small batches. I would also tell you, if you can, to use this stuff called LA's Totally Awesome. I find it sometimes at the dollar store or at Lowe's. It's a bright yellow fluid. It works really, 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 really well, but it doesn't wreck plastic or anything like that. You have to make sure you really rinse it off, though, after you're done with it, because otherwise you'll put new primer on and it will just fall off, because it's very good at getting paint off of things. So yeah, you have to be kind of careful with it that way. Don't drink it, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know that you want to, here's the thing too. If you used super glue to glue your armies together, your armies will fall off. and your leggies too, and your headies, and all those different parts will fall off of the model because the stuff will, if you use plastic cement, then it probably won't. So kind of depends on what you did. If you use plastic cement on all your models, then you could strip more than just a few at a time or whatever, because they won't just be a bundle of limbs in the bottom of your bucket when you're done. Whereas if you use CA glue, that'll happen. But, I like the idea of this new edition. I over-collected stuff for 3 different armies with Kill Team, so I like the possibility I might be able to talk friends into playing Combat Patrol. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Boarding action games has also been fun as a skirmish. For some reason, I'm not interested in boarding action. I mean, maybe they'll change it somewhat when the 10th edition comes out. I'm assuming they will, for sure. I mean, obviously, the stats will change and things like that. But part of the problem with boarding actions is that I'm finding it's really difficult to try to find the actual rules a little bit. And also, I just don't like playing with those walls. Like, the walls were a cool idea at first, I thought. But then after practice, and using them a little bit, I'm like, it just makes just choke point after choke point after choke point, and I just kind of don't enjoy it. So, yeah, that's for me. I'm more interested in Combat Patrol. Oop, everything moved. Let's see here. Oh, you're a forensics nerd too? Yeah, I was in back in the day when I was in high school. It was there was a I don't think they do it anymore, but back then it was group discussion. That was my jam. I did group discussion sophomore, junior, and senior year. In my senior year, I just kind of wrecked shop. Like we went to 8 tournaments and I came in first at 7 of them. So yeah, I was I did real well my senior year. Let's see here. I went way too far back. I've been building and painting a Crimson Fist army for the last couple of years out of the 2nd edition models I bought in the 90s. I bought them because I liked them and wanted to paint them. Sir, there you go. Late night in Japan. How you doing? If anyone has tips on where to pick up an Iowata from Tokyo, I'm all ears. Apparently, there's not much in stock. I thought Iowata was made in Japan. You would think they would be easier to find there. Well, that's weird. I could be wrong, I guess. I don't think I'll. Don't think I'll ever pick up 40k until they simplify the hit rules. I just find it dumb that a well-trained super soldier can't aim to hit anything. I think it's supposed to be a combination of the well-trained super soldier trying to shoot another well-trained super soldier, and when you add those two things together, then it just, you know what I mean? Like if it was like I'm trying to shoot something like the cool mech game from Death Ray Designs, Steel Rift. One of the things I really like about Steel Rift is you don't roll to hit. It's just assumed that one giant mech can, with filled with super science fiction crazy targeting systems, can hit the other mech. So when you are like, I'm going to shoot that mech, you hit them. You don't roll. It's just they're hit. And now that person who's been hit has to roll for defense to see what happened. And so yeah, it makes sense. It's like this broadside of the barn is going to shoot another broadside of the barn. And I mean, if you can't see him, you can't see him. But otherwise, yeah, that's how it works. So they don't roll to hit in that game, which makes a ton of sense. Not having to buy a rule book and 39 different codices and White Dwarf updates will mean more money incentive for spending on models. I mean, so I picked up the Death Watch Combat Patrol after they announced Combat Patrol on Wednesday night of Adepticon. Thursday, I picked up, there was a local Chicago Game Land, something like that. There was a company there that had a booth at Adepticon, and I picked up the the Death Watch Combat Patrol box. After looking at all the different Combat Patrols on my phone and being like, yeah, that one doesn't have a vehicle. I don't like the floating El Camino. You know what I mean? I forget what they call it. Impulsor? The one with all the guns on it is a repulsor. Is the one that looks like a little floating El Camino pickup truck? Is that one the Impulsor? It's just mainly a troop carrier, kind of. I don't know. I just don't like the look of it. But it's in the Space Marine box. It's in a bunch of those boxes. So I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. So one of the reasons I like the Death Watch is because it's just 15 dudes. So that's fine. And I already had the Tau Combat Patrol box already here at home. So I'll maybe eventually do something with them, I'm thinking about. But then when I got back home, I picked up the Adeptus Mechanicus box because I painted AdMech before. I want to paint him differently this time. Also, it's got one of those Doom Crawler guys in there, or Dune, not Doom, but Dune with an N. The Dune Crawler things, and I always wanted to paint one of those. I think they're kind of cool. So I got that, and then I also, from my local shop, picked up because I had a coupon. I picked up the Adeptus, Astra Militarum, whatever, the Imperial Guard, because that armored sentinel is pretty dope. And so yeah. So anyway, so now I have technically 4. One is currently built and going to get primed today after lunch. But yeah, so that's, technically, if those are allegedly 500-ish point armies, it's like I've got a 2,000 point army now. It's just that I get to paint them in 4 different ways and play them in 4 different ways and not have to carry them all around at once and all that kind of stuff. And I find that to be a benefit. The 3-year cycle of editions is a big turnoff and a deal breaker. Yeah, no, I can understand that for sure. I do hope, they've made hints that they want to try to change that going forward, but everybody always is like, oh yeah, no, like when Destiny, the video game, came out, they're like, this game's going to last for 10 years. This is going to just be, and then their Destiny 2 came out, and then we're like, that 10 years went by real fast. So yeah, companies will say that, but then, they'll notice that the line doesn't go up sometimes, and then they'll panic and, I don't like any of the boxes for my factions. That is the one downside, I think, and it's not a downside to me, but for some folks, it is a hard no. It's a hard pass on them when they're like, wait, so I don't get to build my own list for Combat Patrol? And you're like, no, it's what's in the box. That's your list. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And I understand it. Like, I love the concept of not having to sit there and analysis paralysis and hem and haw about, should I do this, or would it be better if I did this, or blah, blah. And I know for some people that's the game. They love list hammer, and they are not interested in just being like, here you go, that's your thing. But I like it, and also I think a lot of beginners, it is an important thing for a lot of beginners because, again, analysis paralysis keeps a lot of beginners out of this game. And when you're like, you don't have to think about it, really, just build and paint this box, start playing, and then down the road, if you want to bump up to an incursion level of 1,000 points, well, then you can start moving things around. You're going to have to add stuff, obviously, but you can start then doing your list building there. But if you tell people you can get into this game and you don't need to understand list building, you can just build this and play it, and it's good, for lack of a better word, training wheels, great. And for those of us who just aren't interested in going down that road of constantly messing around back and forth, we just want to sit down and push around not very models, 30 or less generally, then I think Combat Patrol is awesome as well. Do you play Star Wars Legion? I have an 800-point Star Wars Legion, whatever, the Stormtrooper guys. I don't know what did they just call them Empire? I know it's part of Galactic Civil War era. I don't know if they just call them Empire or not, but I've got an 800-point Empire army built and painted. By the time that I got done, and then post-COVID, such as it is, nobody in my area plays. So they were previous, now not so much. No one's playing the Star Wars game, sadly, around here. So I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll also paint up the Rebels and then at least have 2 sides and can play. But right now, no. And I don't know about Shatterpoint. I played a demo of Shatterpoint at Adepticon. I like it better than Marvel Crisis Protocol, but secondly, I would wait until, for me personally, I would wait until the Galactic Civil War stuff comes out, because the Clone Wars stuff just didn't speak to me. I don't know. I was hopeful that the constant power creep was going to be a thing of the past with version 10, but having read the community article on the 7th where they state that additional rules would be in the codices. I mean, there's going to be codexes in the for normal 40K. Like, that's just going to happen. They're going to come out with the new indexes, which you don't have to buy this time if you don't want to. If you want to download the indexes, that's pretty cool. So that's a new thing, definitely, which they're taking that to some degree from Age of Sigmar. So, the data sheets being free and whatnot, which makes sense, I think. But yeah, there will be then a codex that'll come out, and it'll have different types of detachments and things that you can do and whatever. And will there be some power creep in that? Very probably. I would not be surprised if there if there was. Which is why I'm interested in, again, in combat patrol, because then, you know, there's no codex. There's no, you just, if you're interested in combat patrol, the rules, the main core rules for 40K will be free, and that's what you will use to play. And they will also come out with a pack or whatever that you can download that has all the different units that are in that combat patrol, and that's what you use. And that's another reason why I'm interested in that particular version of the game, because then I don't need a main rulebook and I don't need a codex. So yeah. Let's see here. I hope GW gets the balance of this combat patrol boxes close to right. Otherwise, new people will get their new box, build them up, and just get wrecked. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is they've said that the stats themselves on the data sheets will be different for combat patrol, the values of them, in comparison to the regular 40K versions of those same data sheets, because two reasons. Number one is because you're right, they need to be able to balance those boxes against each other, since that's the way you have to build them. And two, because they want to simplify things a little bit, like in certain, like, you know, the 40K version of this particular unit might have 3 or 4 different special abilities, and it'll maybe only have 1 or 2 on the combat patrol version. So you're not looking at like all this stuff on the data sheet and going, I don't know what that's all about, you know, that kind of thing. I've spoken to a guy who says he's seen some of what's coming in 10th, and he says he's excited. We'll see if he's full of it. I'm hopeful. Well, that's pretty cool. It seems like the only rule to the Golden Demon is paint like the heavy metal team. Even that, it's hard to say, honestly. I don't know. On painting, how many different brushes do you use? Generally, I go back and forth between 3 sizes. I have a brush set that is, well, it's not currently available from Monument Hobbies, because we're waiting for it to, we've sold through 4 production runs. 5th production run is on its way from Germany. It'll hopefully be here soon. But it's called Uncle Adam's Favorite Brushes. There are 3 synthetic brushes, and it's a 00, a 2, and a 4. And those are my 3 daily drivers. Every once in a great while, I need to use a really, 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 really small brush. And then I believe it's called like an X10, which is also from Monument. It's synthetic. It's like if I need to paint just the eye dot on like a Skaven or something like that, I need to be just, you know, right in there. But that brush gets used very little. And then I use makeup brushes for dry brushing and stuff like that for the most part. And what else? Oh, and I have this really old beat up nasty brush that I use for when I paint the rims on my bases. It's an old GW brush from probably 15 years ago. Good afternoon from Stoke-on-Trent. Got any advice about safety precautions when it comes to working with resin models like those from Forge World? Wear a mask. Yeah, definitely. Because especially if you're sanding or chipping away at it with a knife or doing any kind of those different things which you need to do to Forge World stuff, because there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of mold lines. You do not want to get those particles of floating resin in your lungs. So wear a mask. Whether it's like a, you know, like an N95 mask, like a COVID type mask, like a surgical mask, it's still, stuff can kind of get around it a little bit. The surgical mask idea concept is a little bit about getting, it helps to, from what I understand, it helps a little bit to keep stuff from getting in, but it's also from helping stuff to get out or to not get out. You know, if you sneeze, in the early days of COVID, I would see people like pull their mask down to sneeze, like at the grocery store. And I'm like, anyway, well, oh yeah. So, but like the masks you get at the hardware store, which are now finally back in stock generally, like the KN95s and stuff like that. It's not a bad idea to look at something like that. I don't think you need the full rubber thing with the, you know, that looks like a gas mask or whatever like that. That's what I use when I'm airbrushing, but airbrush particles, that's a whole different kettle of chips. Keeping resin dust out of your lungs is a super good idea. So I would definitely try to wear something to try to make that not happen, or just hold your breath for the entire time that you're working on it. Don't actually do that. That's a terrible idea. Let's see here. I want rule sets and army lists that don't need constant updates and supplements. Yeah, I mean that's what Vince and I do. You know what I mean? That's like, you know, and I think that's the benefit to indie games is very frequently The thing is if you're going to make a game and this game is now your ecosystem, so you're a company and you make this one game. Now, obviously, a company as big as Games Workshop makes more than one game, but each game is its kind of own ecosystem. Like, they don't make tons of different games over and over and over again. They're like, we are known for 40K, we're known for Age of Sigmar, we're known for Kill Team, or we're known for Warcry, you know, blah blah blah, other ones. If you want people to keep paying, you have to give them a reason to buy new books, I guess. Brit is like, people don't buy enough books from us, and we are leaving money on the table, so we got to figure out a way to milk more money out of the players. But people are like, but I don't need more books. I bought the player's handbook. I'm not a DM. I don't need the monster manual. I need a player's handbook. I need some dice. I need a pencil. I need some paper, blah, blah. That's what you need. Which is why when you look at the sales numbers for the 4 different genres of tabletop gaming, you got your board games, you got your collectible card games, you got your RPGs, and you have your miniature games. Miniature games are like as far as a number of people who play them, miniature games is the lowest. As far as money coming in, miniature games is in second, usually. And RPGs is the lowest, even though RPGs is probably, between that and board games, they're usually tied for up near the top as far as participation is concerned. More people play board games and RPGs, but the people who play RPGs don't spend that much money because they got to buy a book. Maybe some dice, fancy dice, whatever, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe they buy 2 books. Maybe they buy 3 books. When you think about how many books we buy and then all the miniatures and the paints and all that stuff, it's a totally different kind of animal. So when you're a big, huge corporation like that needs to keep churning money, then you have to, and you've decided, I'm going to hitch myself to just a few little games here and then use them as ecosystems. If you just put out, here's the rules for, you know, this game, and then you don't ever put anything else out again, you will eventually stop selling if that's all you're doing, right? So like with me and Vince, we put out a game and some people might like that game. And we put out another game and some people might like that game. And some people might like both games. And some people might not like any of those games. And that's fine, but maybe they'll like the third game. So we put out a new game and they are not designed to be, this is your new hobby. It's like, you know, Sean Sutter said it in the video that I did on Friday. He's like, you don't just play one video game, do you? I mean, some people do, but most people play multiple video games. Same thing. You don't just watch one movie. Again, some people do. Those people are weird, but you watch usually multiple kinds of movies. So to us, it seems more likely, to us being more, I think, indie, you know, designers and stuff like that, it makes sense to make a game and then not just be like, this is the game that we're hitching our wagon to and we're going to have to get people to keep buying stuff for it. For us, it's just like, we build this game, maybe you'll like that. Because here's the thing, if you decide this is the game that I'm hitching my wagon to, if a bunch of people don't like it for whatever reason, I don't like, we had people tell us they didn't like demons. They're just like, I don't like demons. And okay, cool. Well, Space Station Zero. They're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think I think it's smart to kind of spread that around a little bit. Let's see here. Part of the issue with 3D TVs was everyone had to be just upgraded their TVs to HD. Yeah, it was bad timing. That's for sure. Yeah. Sounds like you want a port of Tabletop Simulator that overlays on a real world table. Maybe. Well, something simpler than that, I think. Honestly, a little bit. I'd like a digital version so I can learn to play without having to find someone to teach me. Also, I think a good idea, too. Battletech from Harebrained Schemes is a video game of a tabletop game that might just scratch your itch. Oh, I've played Battletech. Battletech is tabletop-y in that it's turn-based and you can kind of move things around and stuff like that. It's not a one-to-one specifically. This is like playing this will teach you how to play Battletech, but it is a pretty cool game. If I'm going to play Battletech, I'm going to play the video game version actually before I play the tabletop version, just because it's a lot. It does the math for me and it's a lot quicker. So there's that. Have you seen the D&D movie? I haven't. No, I don't know. Maybe, but we haven't gone to the theater in a long time, and we're just not. I don't know. We'll see. Do you think codexes will return for 10th edition? I believe they've already said they will. Yes. So there will be an index. They're basically ripping off the Band-Aid, and there will be free indexes. I mean, you could buy the index if you want a printed version, but if you just want to download it, you'll be able to get download free index at the beginning of the new edition, whenever it is, sometime this summer. But they will release a new codex for each army over time, over the next, 3 years, I suppose. And we'll see how that goes. But again, if you're playing Combat Patrol, then you don't have to worry about it because they won't release a codex because they'll just be like, here's the stats. There you go. So that's what I'm interested in. Any chance for an expansion for Space Station Zero? Not particularly. I mean, we might make like a very simple kind of add-on that might go into Space Station Zero potentially. Like we're considering, Vince and I, about making in the fall / early winter a small zine, like a little periodical every year, where we would put like a very simple little mini game in it. Like, like this thing when it's print, it's a PDF and it might be 30 pages, might be, well, wait, no, that wouldn't work. 24, 28, 32 pages, 28 pages, something like that, like a small thing. And if you wanted to just keep it as a PDF, great. If you wanted to print it yourself, you could do that very easily and then put a staple in it and boom, you get yourself a little magazine, a zine, if you will. So there might be an add-on that we might put into that, because the idea is to put in like a little standalone kind of very simple mini game, micro game almost, for miniatures, and then also something that adds on to one of our previous games, and maybe there'd be something like that. But a full-blown add-on, no, I don't see us doing that. We're working on the next game, and the game after that already, as it turns out. Let's see here. So the concept was, instead of everybody focusing on anything and everything that happens in 40K, that they could start doing content for smaller companies like Snarling Badger and other small companies. I mean, if that's what they're into, I mean, yeah, I haven't heard anything about it. Like I said, other than that one graphic that I saw from Malev. All right, we're just going to, there we go. Let's see here. I'd say check out Board Game Arena. I know you're not a board gamer, but the interface is really good. I know there was another one called Tabletopia. I've heard of that one, but I don't know anything about it. Let's see here. GW also doesn't have to pay residuals and royalties if there's no one credited. I mean, doing work for hire, I don't know what the legalities are in the UK. But yeah, you might be right. Let's see here. Starting a 500-point White Scar Combat Patrol. Are you using one of the Combat Patrol boxes? Because you could do that with, because from what I understand, they posted this not too long ago, that like the game, just making a 500-point list isn't technically Combat Patrol, and they said that the 10th edition doesn't work great at 500 points if you're just like using the normal stats. If you're using the Combat Patrol sets, because they're tweaking the stats, then it makes more sense. Their smallest size that they suggest for making the rules work properly, I guess, is 1,000 points, which I think they called an incursion. So that's a thing. But yeah. What factions do you think will be in the Old World starter box, and when do you think we'll get it? I have no idea on anything Old World. I've never been super into that stuff. Like I was vaguely interested in Warhammer Fantasy models, but I never liked the concept of the rank and flank. I'm not a rank and flank player, so I never really followed that stuff back in the day. And then when Age of Sigmar came out, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I liked Age of Sigmar. But yeah, I don't know anything about Old World, really. Imagine if GW had just paid Duncan what he deserves and continued to utilize him as the poster boy for their marketing. For only $20,000 more a year, how much profit could they have seen? Immeasurable. Yeah, I mean, it's a what if, but you're not completely wrong. I think that they probably have. It's a bit of a, what do you call that? Penny wise and pound foolish kind of a thing. I think that they do a lot of that over there sometimes. I mean, big corporations in general do that, you know. My friends and I would really like to find a boat battle game, but nothing ticks all the boxes yet. Tried Armada at Adepticon. It was fun enough, but the models were sort of boring. I mean, I find boats kind of boring. I think that's, I don't know. I've never seen boats that have been like, oh, these are super cool looking boats. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's my own jam, though. Everyone's different. I would be playing Adeptus Titanicus if it wasn't priced or outrageously. Same with Aeronautica Imperialis, but the price for entry is too friggin' high. Hence, look at Osprey for better value. I mean, Osprey makes Billions of Suns, which is basically kind of like, sort of like, what do you call it? Battlefleet Gothic, for lack of a better term. It's a spaceship combat game. So you might take a look at that. Official date for Starfield is September 6th of this year. Well, we'll see. What are your thoughts on Vince's thoughts on Golden Demon? Sorry if you covered it already. Yeah, I totally understand what he's talking about. If you haven't seen Vince's video recently, he's got a video out about how he's not going to enter the Golden Demon anymore. And it's not just because he's, and it's not just like, well, because I didn't win one this year, and so therefore I'm angry. It's not that at all. Vince is talking about the way that they seem to format the competition and the way that he's got a lot of really good points. And Vince knows, because Vince is a judge, not in the Golden Demon. That would be weird, but he judged the he was one of the judges for the Resin Beast this year, which is the creature caster painting competition. He has been, and I believe in the future will also be, a judge for Capital Palette. I forget, like, you can't judge, like, he's entering stuff for Capital Palette, but he's entering it in the Masters category, so I know he's not a judge for Masters. He might be a judge for Journeyman, which is because there's like Apprentice, Journeyman, and then Masters at the Capital Palette, which is the painting competition at Nova. So he's judging one of the other ones that he's not entering in, obviously. But yeah, so he's, you know, he's got a lot of good reasons. The feedback thing, I didn't even know about that. Like, they don't give feedback. Like, they're like, oh, you didn't win. Okay, what could I have done better? Like, most painting competitions, judges stay around afterwards to go, you know, you need to work on this, or this is the problem, or you know, that kind of stuff. And that's how you grow as a painter and get feedback. And GW doesn't do any of that. They just, the Golden Demon is just like, here you go, take your stuff. So yeah, again, it's a situation where he's just like, I don't want to do it anymore, and I can totally understand. I miss Wing Commander so much. Oh yeah, I played a bunch of the early Wing Commanders for sure. Have you seen the new Tetris movie? I saw a trailer for it, but I haven't seen the movie. No. You see, BattleTech is making a co-op and solo variant. Yeah. Where did I see that? I might have saw it on Ash's channel. I might have saw it on Guerrilla Miniature Games, or I saw it someplace. LA's is awesome. Oh, it moved. Everything moved. Dang it. My goodness gracious. Come on. Hey, 52 Miniatures, how you doing? Just see, as I'm trying to scroll back to see where I just was. Doomcrawler is an awesome name for something, though. It is, but it's a Dune Crawler, technically. But it's pretty cool, too. Do people still think that the rules for 10th edition will be free? You've been misled if so. That's what they've said, that they'll be free. Now, I'm sure they'll still sell a book, for sure. And like, I'm sure that it won't be like, oh, here's the giant thick book in PDF format, but they will still produce the rules for free. And again, they produced rules for free in 9th edition too, but they weren't all the rules, obviously. They didn't, have quite the depth. They said they're going to do better on that, which is fine. That's whatever. I get it. They're still going to sell a book. But for Combat Patrol, they have said I mean, there will not be a Combat Patrol book. They're like, this is the download stuff you'll need for Combat Patrol, and it will be free. And that's the point, because they want to get people into the hobby. If you tell somebody, hey, you're interested in this hobby, that's really cool, buy these 2 books, and then start buying models, that doesn't help. But if you're like, buy this box, everything else you need to use is free to play this version of the game, Combat Patrol, that's why I'm interested. And I think they would be real dumb if they decided not to do that. I would play the Space Marine El Camino if I can only get a Marine with a cutoff shirt and a mullet to drive it. I don't know how would they put the shirt over the power armor? That has to be a big shirt. And the mullet they would have to glue on to the helmet, I would think. 6 years ago, they said 8th would last forever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm scared the new NIDs will be monopose like the Necrons, as it removes the fun of modeling and kit bashing. I mean, you can still kit bash stuff that's monopose. It takes a little bit more cutting, but I think you can still do it. I've done it. Just wish the Drukhari box had bikes instead of ships. Well, the Eldar box has got bikes. As a diehard Sisters player, I really hate the Sororitas. Combat Patrol has a little bit of everything, but no real synergy, and everything is monopose, so no customization. Well, I guess you don't need to customize much if there's not that much stuff. You know what I mean? Thought I'd watch outside from my iPad. Well, that sounds fun. If it's a good day out, that's helpful. Let's see here. Putting dead Necron models back on the board is just straight up more exciting than OPR's regeneration mechanic. I'm not familiar with their regeneration mechanic, I don't think. No, I haven't played Necrons. Well, Robot Overlords, is that what they're called? I can't remember what they're called. I've played Machine Cult, not Machine Cult. Whatever, Technology Cult? I don't know. AdMech. I've played AdMech and I've played Battle Brothers in Grimdark Future Firefight. I haven't played Grimdark Future because it's more army scale and it's not my jam, so. Just finished a Nid army that is based on plants. Well, that's kind of fun. Wondering if Forge World stuff is going to receive updated data sheets when 10th is it? I would think so. I mean, they kind of have to if you want to be able to use them in the game, because the data sheets, as if you've looked at the website, are changing. Like, it's not the same. It's not the same as it used to be. Like, the data sheets are no longer like, strength and toughness and da-da-da. Like, well, they are, but they aren't. Like, they've changed the ways. It's kind of going in a little bit the direction that Age of Sigmar is going, where, like, your to hit is based on the weapon and not on your skill. So back in the old days, let's say you could hit on a 3-up. Your weapon skill was 3-up. But then when you put on this Power Fist, well, then we had to call it unwieldy, so that when you wore the Power Fist, you could only hit on a 4-up. That's how they used to do it. Well, now, when you've got a gun, you have a 3-up. When you put on a Power Fist, you have a 4-up. It's built into the stat for the weapon, not for the person, and then has to be modified by the weapon and that kind of stuff. So it gives them a little more flexibility, but there's a bunch of other reasons. Look on the Warhammer community website. They just went over the cards, the data sheets or whatever recently, and talked about all the new stuff. So yeah, there's interesting stuff there. Got a small piece of resin into my eye. It sucks. I wear glasses, but yeah, no, that's not a bad idea too. Particles having an aerodynamic diameter greater than 10 microns pose little health hazard. Of course, if you're sanding it and you're sanding resin, then I don't know. RPG as an industry is one you get into because you love RPGs. You do not get into RPGs to make money. True. I mean, I don't think you should get into gaming to make money. If you're like, oh, I want to make money, well, there's better ways to do it. There's better ways if money is the metric, right? If you want to get into gaming because you love gaming, that's a much better reason to do so, frankly. The business side, I mean. Let me guess, CCGs make the most cash? Yeah, generally. Will the prices of models themselves lower in 10th? Oh, probably not. No. Missed the first hour around here and we'll probably be building my Archon Studios Dragon while I listen. Nice. I got Archon Studios Walker. It's like a, I don't know, it kind of looks like a World War II vehicle but with legs. It's kind of cool. I picked it up. It was in my video, it's like the first thing I showed in my Adepticon booty video 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. I opened up the box recently, was looking at the sprues. Very chunky. That Sean Sutter quote is great. The minis are the consoles and the rules of the cartridge. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the way I like to think of it in most situations. Is when I look at a model, I don't ever go, "Oh, this is going to be so great for this game." My first thought is usually, "This will be great for this game, but I can also use it in this game, in this game, in this game." You know, these Death Watch that I'm going to start painting up tomorrow on Twitch. If you're interested, you can check Twitch out over here. Follow me at twitch.tv/tabletopminions. I stream on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time for 3 hours and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Central for 3 hours. So you could, watch me work on the Death Watch over there if you were so interested. But even with those models, I could use those in Space Station Zero. Not all of them, but some of them. I could use them in Space Weirdos. I could use them in Planet 28. Like, I can use them in all kinds of different games, depending on what kind of flavor of game I'm interested in playing now. Like, there's certain games you can't use them in. I don't think I could use them in Zona Alpha. That wouldn't make any sense, I couldn't really, I could technically use them, I guess, in, well, there's no range attacks really in Rain in Hell, so I don't know how well they would work in that, but that kind of stuff. Let's see. Do you think Orcs will get any new models in 10th? Probably. On video games to teach tabletop, Warhammer Underworlds Online was good for that. I enjoyed it enough to convince me to actually buy models and a board. That's one of the few that is from what I understand, very close to a direct one-to-one representation, but it's really, honestly, it's more of a board game. You know what I mean? Like, I've said for years that Warhammer Underworlds is a great gateway game between board games and miniatures, but it is really leaning a little bit more towards board gaming. But it has miniatures, obviously it has miniatures in it, but a lot of board games have miniatures in it. But it also has, like, range and line of sight in certain situations and things like that, which makes it a little bit more towards the miniatures game type side. But yeah. Last new film I saw was Kong Skull Island in 2017. That was good. I like that movie. I saw it on HBO though, or whatever. Did I miss hot takes on 10th? If so, a simple yay or nay would suffice. I'm really, really looking forward to Combat Patrol, in that I've already got, 4 of them, 1 built now. And I'm going to prime them this afternoon. The Death Watch, there's only 15 guys, so it's not a huge deal, but still. But yeah, and I'll start painting them tomorrow on Twitch. So I'm very interested in Combat Patrol. I don't know that I will ever even expand an army up to 1,000 points for Incursion. It might happen, I guess. Kind of depends on what my friends do. Like, I'm also I'm talking to some of the guys that I know who haven't played like probably a single game of Ninths, just like I haven't. And I've been like, because we were just at Adepticon, so you kind of have that thing going. Several of those guys are getting real into Horus Heresy, but the idea of also being able to play a small game of 40K is also interesting to them. So, not too bad. Love your zine idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. How's the next game progressing? Good. Yep. We should be, like, in theory, we should have it all ready to go by June, so that'll be cool. 40K seems locked into I go, you go. Yeah, it does. Just not my jam. I get it. Might be the player base themselves that would revolt with an alternate activation system, but that is so boring. I don't disagree. I really was hoping that eventually that they would fix that, but not yet. I mean, to be fair, we have played it in the past where we've done the bolt action thing, where you basically pick a die out of the bag. Like, let's say I have 5 units and you have 4 units or whatever. And so there's 5 of my dice and 4 of your dice in the bag. And you pick a dice out of the bag and go, oh, it's one of yours. And then you pick a unit and then do phase, whatever. But it's harder to do that way because of the way that it's like other games where you activate a unit and then you do the unit stuff. You're in different phases. Then it's kind of hard. Like the command phase in this situation, it's a whole thing. I mean, the command phase, I guess, from what they've said in like 10th or even in like Age of Sigmar and stuff like that, technically you could do the command phase first, and then once it gets into movement phase, you could then say that's now when we start picking dice out of the bag, and then I don't know. You could. There's ways to figure it out, I think, but it's been a while. We tried that in 7th edition a couple of times, or was it 8th? No, it was 7th edition. We did that. People haven't seen it. Relic Blade and Sludge have both released paper minis for people to use to try out the games. Well, that's smart. How will boarding actions then still work? I don't know. They haven't said that I've seen. Boarding actions will have their own rules. Yeah, I think that they are a different rule set, sort of, than 40K. But again, I've never actually even got a chance to see the boarding action rules because they hid them in like 3 different Arcs of Omen books or something. I don't even know. Again, I'm not super interested in boarding actions because all those walls just, I don't want to play on a board like that. But that's, again, personal preference. So basically 40K will be combat patrol battles, kill team, boarding actions, and the matched 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Take kill team out of there, and I think, yeah, kill team is its own separate thing. I mean, admittedly, it is in the world of 40K. It uses 40K models to a degree, but I think the kill team is really a totally separate game. Just like Warcry is totally separate than Age of Sigmar, you know? Blur's Craft, how you doing? Fantasy is the best version of Warhammer. It's still my group. It plays weekly. Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys like it. On a positive note, I built a 3-foot edge hill from a chunk of blue insulation styrofoam over the last 2 days, just allowing it to dry thoroughly and paint it tomorrow. Nice. That sounds fun. The Duncan situation is a classic Pennywise and Dollar Foolish. See, that's what I was saying. Like, yeah, again, way behind. Sorry. I really like Victory at Sea. It's a good ship combat game. Is that by Warlord? I'm not familiar with it. Vince has really good points about the feels badsies of Golden Demon. Yeah, no, for sure. Whoop, everything moved again. Scrolling. No, Zine Idea. Dystopian Wars. Never played any of those games. Again, boat games. It wasn't my, There we go. Caught back up. Black Seas by Warlord Games looks pretty cool. Sea battles in the 18th and 19th century with very nice models. Cool. It's really disappointing that they changed how finalist pins are given out. Yeah, but with no information about why or how or whatever. It's just, again, yeah, I get it. I love your name for Aeronautica Imperialis when you can't remember it. Fly-Aroundicus. I mean, that's basically it, Do you have a day job? Yes, though, and I have for years and years and years, though recently now my day job is a little bit more freelance. So I still have a day job, but it is not 40 hours a week anymore. There's times when it's, low hours and times when it's higher hours. But between that and then this, Tabletop Minions being YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff. And then also Snarling Badger Studios, the game company that Vince and I are doing. Those are my 3 jobs at this point now. But yeah, I have, as of late last year, I am now technically working more freelance for my day job that I worked at for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. 6 years, I think. Oh, I'm not a developer. No, it says here Adam is an app developer for a company. No, I'm a designer, not a developer. I'm not a programmer. I'm the visuals guy, but you're pretty close. Letting Vince judge his work wouldn't be fair to Vince. He would totally call it all his errors. It's very true. Yeah. If only Crimson Skies had been successful enough to stay around. Yeah, it was a fun game. To be perfectly honest, my favorite version of Crimson Skies, honestly, was the PC game. The Xbox 360 game was fine, or was it regular Xbox? No, I think it was regular Xbox, wasn't it? It was fine. I enjoyed it, but the PC game is really what I enjoyed. I played the WizKids game a little bit, but I never played the original like Metal Models FASA version of it, but I played the heck out of the PC game. We used to play that at LAN parties all the time. It was a lot of fun. Spending 100 hours on a piece and it doesn't even appear to get noticed and there's no feedback, no fanfare, no pictures, that would feel bad. Yeah, yes, it would. I agree. I totally agree. Try highlighting the text, perhaps. It will stay highlighted even if it shifts. Oh, that's not a bad idea. Just try that. Or when GW was it at least put lots of pictures of Golden Demon entries into White Dwarf article. Yeah, they used to do that. They don't seem to do it anymore. Again, especially with the American one, I think it's just because they don't want to spend the money to send people over here. You know what I mean? Like they take just the bare minimum pictures, like, you know, like think about, say what you will about Crystal Brush. They took pictures of every single model and put them all on the internet. Sometimes it took a long time, but they did it. But that wasn't cheap. And so Games Workshop, again, being a little bit, as far as it can tell right now, a little bit, penny wise, pound foolish or whatever. That's the issue. I entered 4 models in the competition at Heritage Con 15, but didn't win anything. Saw a few people photographing my stuff, so I took satisfaction from that. It's more about inspiring others. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Robot Legions, that's what they're called. That's right. Personally, I'm excited for 10th as a hard reset of the game, and I think all the armies should be fairly equal starting out with the possible exception of Marines and Nids. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm into gaming because I'm insane. Well, that's fine too. The best way to make a small fortune in miniatures manufacturing is to start out with a large fortune. That's a joke that's been going around the industry for a long time there, Lee. I agree. How will you incorporate the walker into your games? Well, depends on the game, I suppose. There's a part of me that wants to make it a terrain feature, actually. I kind of want to get a couple other ones. Like, I want to go online and see if I can find another or two of that same model, the one that I brought back from Adepticon, because it's not particularly expensive. It's like, I don't know, retails for like $30 or $31 or something like that. So I think it'd be fun to use one as a terrain piece and then one like in the 4-legged configuration. And then there's also a 2-legged configuration you can build as well. And I think it might be fun to do all of those. But yeah, I don't know. I could use that in... I don't think there's rules for walkers at all in... There's not rules for walkers in Space Weirdos, but there is in Planet 28. Walkers/vehicles, yeah. I started building some dudes for Zona Alpha using Anvil Industry. I think it's a great place to get Zona Alpha models. That's where the majority of mine are. I do have some metal ones from Eureka as well, which are guys in like mop gear, but that's about it. If I was serious about making money, I'd be defrauding a multinational corporation. See, there you got that right there. Any thoughts on Star Wars Shatterpoint? I did a demo at Adepticon. At least I feel like you are trying to kill each other as opposed to Marvel Crisis Protocol, which seems a lot more like I'm just trying to push people off of objectives or push people onto objectives. It just... Superheroes aren't supposed to get killed. So I get that. I understand that. It's not about, But people croak in Star Wars all the time, I guess. So at least it felt like I was trying to harm the other people in the game. That being said, I'm still not jazzed about the bigger scale. And also I'm not super crazy into the Clone Wars stuff. So I'm waiting to see what happens when they come out with the Galactic Civil War stuff, otherwise known as episodes 4, 5, and 6. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, etc. There's also a lot of tokens. There's a lot of tokens in that game, and of course custom dice because it's AMG. So those are all strikes in my mind. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, like I got to be honest. I don't relish the idea of having to come up with all new scenery. Like if I can come up with just like a bunch of like, I don't know, natural stuff, rock formations and mesas, and we're fighting out in the desert. But if you bring a building in, I already have a bunch of like Tatooine style buildings for Legion. They're all going to look really weird next to these guys who are, 50% taller than the Legion guys or whatever. So, or maybe not, it's 50, but it's a lot taller. So yeah, that bothers me, and I wish they hadn't have done that. But I think that they're trying to separate themselves from Legion and all that kind of stuff. So. Is the new game going to be sci-fi? It's going to be, these are the terms that we have decided that we will announce at this point. Near future, asymmetrical, which is to say, like if you ever played way back in the day, you can still play it now because they came out with a new edition of it, but Ogre by Steve Jackson Games is well known as a asymmetrical game. One side has lots and lots of forces, hover tanks and all kinds of, dudes in power armor, all this kind of stuff. And then the other side is one big honking tank, right? So that's asymmetrical. They're equal to each other in power or whatever. They're balanced in theory, but it's number of models versus like one, that kind of thing. So that's okay. So we got near future, we got asymmetrical, we got solo and co-op, but also versus if you want to play that way. And then of course skirmish. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're saying right now. Judge Dredd has the mechanic of drawing tokens. I mean, that makes sense because it's from Warlord, right? So that would make sense. June, you say? My birthday is June 26th. That'd make for a great release. The plan is to be earlier June, actually. Yeah. Reactions and heresy is a nice compromise. Keeps you involved in your opponent's turn without creating gotchas. A lot of people that I talked to after the preview were like, it sounds like they're trying to also pull some reactions from Horus Heresy. So that's also cool, but I guess I didn't catch that part, but that's what they'd said. You can use Warcry and Kill Team in their respective big games. Necromunda is its own thing, and I wish it was more. I mean, you can use the models, yes, for sure. But I used to say that the previous version of Kill Team, I was like, oh, well, it kind of teaches you 40K, because at least it starts to wrap your head around the concept of strength versus toughness and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. When they went into the 2021 version, which people like, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of them, but people like it, it doesn't really have kind of the same, like it's not a straight line, right? It's, again, you're using those models, which you could then eventually put into 40K, that's fine, but it's not the same game by any stretch of the imagination. Whereas Combat Patrol is going to be the same game, just with slightly different stats on the actual models so that the things are balanced and stuff like that. I can never figure out units in 40K where you have like two units of the same type and you smoosh them together. How do you keep track of that? It can be tough. Some people will put little markers on the bases. I saw there was a company at Adepticon called Squad Markers, I believe, and they build some sort of little thing that does that. You can also paint them a little bit differently too. Put different shoulder stripes on their outfit. There's all kinds of things you can do if you want to go down that road. Do you want to make rules for Little Green Army Men? I mean, lots of games can be used with Little Green Army Men if you want to. I don't know if there's anything specifically, but maybe. Fistful of Lead for Little Green Army Men. See, there you go. Wargame Vault is a great site to look for stuff like that. Wargamevault.com. Let's see here. Artists are always their own harshest critics. It's true. It's very true. I loved the WizKids game for Crimson Skies. I picked up most of it when it was a couple of bucks on clearance. But yeah, I liked it, but well, I didn't like the guys version. I liked the airplanes version because there were kind of two versions of the game, which was sort of weird. Loving Space Station Zero, by the way. I've invested in some merch, shirts, and a hat. Nice. Will help me roll better, right? I think so. I believe so. Yeah. GW takes more pictures than they let on for Golden Demon. That's how they sell more White Dwarf issues. It'll be there. That's, yeah, you may be right. I bought 2 thin hardcover volumes of all the Golden Demon entries from 89 and 90, and they were inspirational back from the before times, poured over the photos in those books for years. Nice. Anyone else planning on using Wargames Atlantic cannon fodder box sets to represent Fallout Vault dwellers? Oh, the jumpsuits. If you painted them blue, yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah, those are cool models. I found winning or be in the top 5 sculpt and paint contest, make a large kingpin-like guy in a loincloth. Judges are a sucker for that. Huh. If you like a lot of tokens, you will love Fallout Wasteland Warfare. There are about 1 million tokens. That, I was actually talking about that earlier, is one of the reasons that I don't love Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Yeah, that game's got too many tokens. I feel like the AMG stuff's got too many tokens. Yeah, that's just. I feel like the design idea to some degree is like, well, we could make if we want to have there be more states. This guy's prone. This guy's stunned. This guy's stunned and prone. Like, you know, all these different things. And as a designer, you add all those extra features into the game. It becomes a little bit like maybe you should make a video game, like, because that can track that stuff way easier than 28 different tokens on a model. You know what I mean? Where you're like, well, he's out of this gun is jammed and he's stunned. I think that he also has to go to the bathroom. That's what this icon is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can actually activate this turn. You know, that just maybe dial it back a little bit. So yeah. Futuristic robot cowboy squirrels. No, but I mean, not for this game, you know, but not. Whether painting competitions were happening alongside Golden Demon, I didn't know there was two. I mean, so there's Golden Demon, there's the Resin Beast, which is done by those guys. Creature Caster, I completely flaked on that. Creature Caster, I mean, obviously it used their models, you know. And then AMG had one as well. They had a painting competition for like Marvel stuff, which I'm assuming next year it'll be Marvel stuff and Shatterpoint stuff. Who else? I know there was somebody else. Arena Rex, did they have a painting competition? I think also Privateer. Doesn't Privateer do their... I think they do their Grandmaster painting competition at Adepticon now. Not the same as it used to be, but yeah, they used to do it at Gen Con, but I think now they do it at Adepticon. So there's other ones. Oh, see, there you go. Creature Caster, Privateer Press, and Atomic Mass all had painting competitions. Do you have any favorite accessories for games? Tape measure. Yeah. Combat Patrol, I'm going to play Death Watch. My son is going to play Tyranids. Nice. See, that makes sense. Wish Wargames Atlantic were releasing models a bit faster. I've been waiting 2 years for the Afghan cavalry. Yeah, I suppose it depends on what they have to figure out. You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to, like, what do they think is going to sell? I'm sure that's part of it, too. Now you need a distracted token for Space Station Zero. There you go. I think he has to go to the bathroom. That's what this icon is. And yeah, since he's stunned, you also have to flip this token over to see which is a fancy coin. Ooh, yeah, there you go. Good morning from Beaver Dam. How you doing? To follow up, Crimson Skies aerial combat game, not the ground one, was the one I loved also. Yeah. The ground one, I thought it was odd that they decided to do both, but whatever. You know, companies make decisions, and sometimes they don't work out. Most people that I know that were interested in that Old Wiz Kids one were interested in the air combat. So, yeah, I bought into that stuff and had a bunch of that and played it. The hardest part, and this is the thing that X-Wing did that was smart, they gave you these little octagon-shaped cardboard pieces. So when you were going to do a maneuver, you looked at the card and said, okay, this is the one that I'm going to do. And then you set it down. And it was kind of like, like X-Wing, where you basically decided what your maneuver was going to be. Each person did, and then you did them. But instead of like pulling up the little wheel and showing, oh, I'm doing a 3 turn, and then putting the little ruler down there and then moving your thing, it would show you this like diagram of all these little octagon shapes like kind of attached to each other, and then you had to build it in front of your plane and then move your plane from here to here. And they gave you lots and lots of possibilities, but it was also super fiddly, and that slowed things down a bunch. But again, you weren't playing with that many planes, I guess. You were usually playing with maybe 3, so per side at worst. So that's not so bad. But I don't know. There was things about it that I thought were cool, and the planes were fun, and they were pre-painted and ready to go, and that was neat. But yeah, the PC game was really what I dug. Let's see here. Mantic also had a painting competition at Adepticon. Nice. I didn't even see that. My confession is that it's taken me since 8th edition to paint a dozen or so Space Marines, and I've still not gotten a 40k game in. I mean, if you're having a good time, then there's nothing wrong with that. You know, some people paint quickly, some people paint slowly. I have a tendency to paint quickly, but I don't necessarily paint like great, but I do okay. Well, I don't even paint that quickly. I paint quicker than I used to. Let's just say that. Back in the day, it used to take me forever, and I would get results that were like, eh. But now I get results that are a little better than eh, and I do it quicker than I used to, but now still not necessarily super crazy speedy, but I'm still happy with the results, and it's fine. So, yeah, it's all about what you're interested in getting done, you know? And there's a lot of people out there who build and paint and play, or don't even play. That's the thing. There's a lot of people out there who build and paint and enjoy it, and have no interest in ever playing. They just want to have cool looking models to look at, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm creating a Cardinal Sin. I used Grid for 5 leagues from Borderlands. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you're having a good time with it. I mean, it's a solo game. You know, you can do what you want. Have you tried Free Blades? Like years ago at Adepticon, I played in a demo. Me and a couple of friends played a demo of Free Blades. God, 2016? It's been a while. It's been a minute. It was cool. It just didn't, for some reason, it just didn't take off with us. Like, it just didn't spark it. I don't know what it was, but I'm glad to see that they're still out there, you know, making stuff happen. They always got a booth at Adepticon and Gen Con, I think, too. Have you played any of the Barnes & Noble exclusive Gateway versions of GW games? I own Fireteam, but I haven't played it. And not, well, Blitzball, I guess. If you're not, like, if you're talking about just 40k games, then no, not really. But if you're talking about GW games in general, then Blitzball is the one that I've played. I played actually with VJ Morph here. We played at TMX 2019, just before the pandemic. I'd like to take a gambit at Turnip 28. It seems really fun, but no one at my FLGS is willing to give it a try. Also, finally finished my AdMech army. Took me like 6 months painting sparsely, approximately 52 miniatures. Yeah, it's a lot of miniatures. Yeah, after I get done with these Death Watch, then my question is, what's the next army that I build? Or next combat patrol that I build? Again, I've got Tau, I've got AdMech, and I've got Imperial Guard. I'm currently listening to an AdMech book, though, an audio book. I forget what it's called. Let's find out quickly, shall we? It is called Scatarius. There you go. So, and it's written by a guy. Who's it written by? Not Graham McNeil. Rob Sanders. And there's, I think, 2 of them so far. There's that one, and there's another one that's attached to it. And I was like, initially I was like, I was all out of podcasts and stuff. And I was like, well, I'll listen to this. We'll see how it goes. So far, it doesn't, it's kind of cool. I'm kind of liking it. It's not, you know, amazing, but it's better than I thought. So, yeah, maybe there's a possibility that my next one after these guys are maybe going to be AdMech. That might be kind of fun. I'd love to see a modernized version of Crimson Skies with all the lessons learned from X-Wing. Doubt that there will be any due to license holders not seeming interested. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm kind of surprised. I'm almost surprised that, like, what's his name there? The guys that did the BattleTech video game don't pick it up. But then also potentially could do the tabletop game because they, yeah, because, well, Harebrained Schemes, that's the name of the company. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. They made a tabletop game before they made the BattleTech video game, and that would be kind of cool. But I don't know if they're, I think they might not be interested in, they may not be interested in doing another, like, you know, tabletop game. They might have decided, let's just do video game stuff, but I don't know. I purchased Necromunda, Warcry, and Cursed City. Spent so much money on games that I will never get to use, and I'll never get my money back out of them. They just sit unenjoyed. I mean, have you built them and all that kind of stuff? Or because if you haven't, you could probably sell them on eBay. Heck, even if you built them, you could probably still sell them on eBay if you wanted to, you know. Blitz Bowl annoyed me. Bought it, built it, and it's not great. It's not a great on-ramp. No, it's a different game than Blood Bowl, for sure. It plays very differently. Not hugely differently, but differently enough. I get that. Ever play Mantic's Armada? I haven't. Nope. I thought about doing a demo at Adepticon, but I did not have the time, as it turned out. Let's see here. Is the guard box the one with the tank? No, the guard box comes in, the guard box combat patrol comes with a commissar, I think 20 guardsmen, those two like kind of artillery emplacement thingies, and an armored sentinel. It's the newer box that came out. I think the older box had like one of those Torox like transporty guys in it or whatever, but this is the newer combat patrol box that's got the armored sentinel is really the thing I think would be a lot of fun to work on. So yeah. Picked up an unopened copy yesterday of an 80% off Fireteam box. That's pretty cool. Is that the same as Kill Team but just not made anymore? I would not say it's the same as Kill Team. It's like maybe mini Kill Team. I don't know. It's hard to say. How has playing Forbidden Psalm games been? I like the look of Last War and kill sample process, but worry they may be too shallow, chaotic. Well, chaos may be an issue, just because, you know, some people are like, I don't want to play a game that has any charts or randomness in it at all, which is, you know, it's a way to go about things. I like there to be a bit of randomness. I enjoy it, but if you're concerned about simplicity, Forbidden Psalm is the simpler of the three, and then like things ramp up more with Last War, and then they ramp up even more with kill sample process, which I have right here. As a matter of fact, I finally got my hard copy just recently. This is the kill sample process book. It's got a crazy skull on it with wires and a camera lens and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying this one and the other one. Well, I've played a little bit of Forbidden Psalm, but it's been a while. I've been focusing more on building terrain for kill sample process and for the Last War, and messing around with those and coming up with models and stuff like that, because I think it's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with, I personally don't feel that Forbidden Psalm is simple. I'm just saying that if you think it's simple, the other two keep tacking more things on top of it, which, you know, to some people would be like, well, this is too much, but to other people would be like, this is the amount of crunch I want. So it kind of depends. I don't know if you've said it before, but Warhammer 40k new edition enticed you to try to give it a try again to big war games? No, I'm going to play Combat Patrol. So I'm not interested in playing big war games. I'm interested in playing Combat Patrol, which there might be a Combat Patrol that has 30 models in it. Probably like Death Guard or something like that, but I'm not going to probably play Death Guard. I'm starting with Death Watch, which has only 15 models. I'm going to be priming them later today. They've all been built and their bases have been textured and all that fancy shenanigans. So yeah, I don't see myself I mean, there's maybe a world where down the road, if I've got friends that get really involved in it, maybe we'll expand to 1,000 points. But so far, me and the friends that I've talked to are like, Combat Patrol sounds great because it's a smaller group of models, it's a quicker game, it's a smaller board, and you don't have to do any list building. You just go, this is the list, and let's play a game. And that's the thing for us that we're interested in. But I don't see myself wanting to push around 40, 50, 60, 70 models again. No, not in any kind of situation. I've been trying out Steel Rift, and it's been great. Basically, BattleTech, but you get to customize the minis, and it doesn't do tons of bookkeeping. Yeah, I like Steel Rift a lot. I like that 36-page book. I love that. Have you thought about doing a collaboration with any European content creators like Geek Gaming Scenics, MS Paints, The Pickle Jar, or Benji's Hobbies? I don't think I'm familiar with Benji's Hobbies, but I'm familiar with the other ones. I don't know what we would do. I don't seem to be very good at collaboration. Well, I mean, like Vince and I, or Sam and I, but, well, Vince and I don't live near each other, but Sam and I do. So Sam comes into the studio. Vince and I collaborate through our game and stuff like that. But yeah, I've never had any great ideas on what collaboration, but I'm not against the concept. I just don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things I'd like to do, but I just don't know tons about it, I guess. I probably should. Hopefully we'll be back to our Friday Night Gaslands game next week. Haven't rolled dice in anger in nearly a month. Losing my edge. Well, you don't want that. Death Card has 30,000 Suns, has 20 Zangors, and is 26-ish. Oof, yeah, that's a lot. Like, the Guard has got 20... Well, there's 20 dudes. A Commissar has 21. 2 of those emplacement-y things comes to 23. And then there's like 25, I think, in that box. Maybe slightly more. I'll have to go back and look. Combat Patrol does look interesting. Yeah, that's my roots. Like, that's how I got into, 40K. Way back in the day in 5th edition, I would go over to Sam's older brother's house, Sam's brother John. We would go and hang out in his garage and play Combat Patrol games. And back then in 5th edition, Combat Patrol was 400 points instead of like 500 points. And it was just like, there were certain rules, and I don't even think that Games Workshop was involved in the way that this. I think it was just like a thing that was getting passed around the internet. No model could have, I think, more than 2 wounds. If you had a vehicle, it couldn't. When you added up the armor, front, back, and side, it couldn't be over 33. There was like these specific things you could and couldn't do within 400 points, and that was supposed to make it more balanced and stuff like that. And there were certain armies that were better than others. And plus 5th edition was all about the metal boxes. You got to drive across you got to be in a Rhino, otherwise you're going to get your face shot off. And so trying to fit a Rhino then into also that thing, it was a whole, so yeah, but that was how we started playing initially was Combat Patrol. So that's why I'm very interested in getting back into it this way. Have you painted anything from the Middle Earth line? Terrain, that's basically about it, and it's been a while. I have built some models for Middle Earth. I was kind of interested in battle companies for a little bit. And I built some Uruk Scouts, I think, but I haven't painted them. If there's anybody that's going to take an oil wash, I think it's going to be Uruk-hai. I mean, that makes just a lot of sense. The one GW box I've seen recently I find attractive is the Imperial Agents Boarding Patrol box. Those weird dudes from the Rogue Trader box and the new Imperial Breachers. I could find a use. I haven't seen that box, but that makes sense. I could see it. Bought, built, and painted the Ultramarine Combat Patrol box in a week. Might get some Reavers now. Oh, that's cool. 5th edition Combat Patrol was an adaptation of a mode in the 4th edition rulebook that GW dropped. Okay, yeah, I didn't know where it came from. I just knew that people kind of passed it around and was like, well, this is what we're doing. So I was like, okay, cool. And yeah, I started out with a Tau Combat Patrol, and then I eventually shifted over to Chaos. But yeah, that's how I kind of got things started. Just learned a new thing from Tabletop Millions. How is it I learn more from here than I do at my local GW store? Now I'm interested in Combat Patrol. Deliveries, everything. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I think that that's a part of it, is that people, like, they need to... Sometimes I think marketing doesn't see the forest for the trees. That might not be the right term. my point is sometimes you're too close to something. So marketing will be like, oh, we're going to do this and this and this and that. And someone who doesn't generally follow everything that you put out all the time, which marketing always thinks that everything that they put out there is gold and everybody reads it and everybody understands it. And that's not true. So you always have to be explaining things to people as if this is the first time that you've talked to them, because very frequently it is. And even sometimes they forgot it. And now that, now they're remembering it. Like I had a conversation once with, well, I've talked many times with the guys that run Adepticon. I was talking to Hank one time. This was several years ago, and he talked about how he went into a game store in Chicago. Now, Adepticon is in Schaumburg, which is right next to Chicago. It's like west of Chicago. He went into a game store in Chicago, and he saw a bunch of guys playing 40K, and he was just kind of chatting and like looking at their stuff and whatever, and he mentioned Adepticon, and none of them had even heard of it. And this was like 2018. And he's like, you've never heard of Adepticon? And they're like, no, we've never heard of it. And he's thinking to himself, how is it that my marketing is not hitting these people who live 15 minutes away from Adepticon and play 40K and they've never even heard of it? You know what I mean? Like it's just the way that, you think your marketing works and it doesn't. So the concept of like, oh, this is what we're doing with Combat Patrol, and you explain it in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense to people, that if the idea behind Combat Patrols is to get new people possibly on the track towards 40K, you have to obviously, bring it down to the idea of like, these people don't understand 40K necessarily. And maybe you do, but just the idea of like, you have to lay things out in marketing the right way. It's just really tough sometimes because you think you're doing it right. And, because in your mind, it all makes sense, but you have to think about people who aren't you. And that's hard sometimes in marketing. I get it. Well, folks, it is 11 a.m. in my neck of the woods, and so I've got to get ready because we're going over to my in-laws for lunch as per usual, but it's also Easter, so I think that there's going to be other people there as well. So that'll be fun. And then, like I said, later on this afternoon, I am priming my Death Watch, and I will start painting them tomorrow night on Twitter. Or not Twitter, Twitch, whatever, this thing. So if you're interested, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/tabletop minions, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be there for 3 hours working on those guys. I'll be doing it again on Friday, 10 a.m. That's my normal jam, is Monday night, Friday morning. So if you're interested, go follow me over there and you'll get a notification and all that jazz. So start working on the Death Watch tomorrow. I think that's about it. I want to thank everybody for coming by. And, it's good to be back after, kind of walking around with a phone on a gimbal. And that's technically an every other Sunday show, but it's not the same. It's harder to read the chat in that tiny little window. So glad to be back here as well. So we'll see you folks again here in 2 weeks. But otherwise, like I said, check me out on Twitch. New video coming up on Friday, normal video, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you folks soon. And if you get a chance, take a look at the TMX website as well. Just tabletopminions.org/TMX, or just go to the TMX. Just go to tabletopminions.org, and there's a link up at the top. I got to put up the new version of the video, website, but I haven't gotten to the chance yet. All right, so we'll see you folks again soon, and thanks for coming by. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I think that's pretty much it. Sun's definitely coming out. I'm getting kind of nuked here by the light a little bit, but have a good day. Thanks for watching.